Good morning. Hayom Yom, Yud Tes Nissan, the fourth day of the Omer. In the year that Hayom Yom was printed, in 1943, so Yud Tes Nissan fell out on a Shabbos. It was Shabbos Chalamayid. So the Rebbe begins by sharing with us a few laws that is relevant to that kind of situation, of a Shabbos holiday. The first law is that in the Friday night prayers by lecha dodi, which is in page 156 in your Siddur, so instead of saying the usual words, berina uvtzahala, we invite the Shabbos Queen to come sing and come in a spirit of gladness. We switch that to besimcha uvtzahala, come in a spirit of joy and a spirit of gladness. And the reason why we switch from berina to besimcha is because the word simcha, the word joy, is associated with holidays. It's associated with a Shabbos holiday. Like we say, moedim besimcha. So that's law number one. Then the Rebbe says that there is 5 prayers we say throughout the Shabbos experience that instead of saying them in the usual way out loud, you should keep saying them, but say it quietly, say it in a whisper. 4 of those prayers are pre-Kiddush. That's between the pages 176 and 178. And those are the Shalom Aleichem prayer, the echus prayer, the Mizmor LeDavid prayer, and the Dahi Su'udasa prayer. Then there's a 5th prayer, which is on page 298. That's the V'yidin Lecha prayer, which we say Matzah Shabbos, also whisper that. Okay, so that's that law. Now it's worth noting that there are many Jewish communities that when this happens, when it's a Shabbos holiday, they actually totally skip the Shalom Aleichem. They don't say it at all. There's other communities that do say it at all. They say it like it's a regular day. We, though, says the Rebbe, should say it, but say it in a whisper, say it quietly. Now, very, very interesting. In the original printing of the Hayom Yom in 1943, the Rebbe there didn't write what he writes here. The Rebbe wrote that in this situation, on a Shabbos holiday, we should totally skip these 5 prayers. We shouldn't say them. It was only in the revised edition, which came out in Tafshin Yud Zayin, that the Rebbe wrote what he wrote here, that we should say it, but whispers. So that's that. In the rest of the Hayom Yom, the Rebbe shares with us a very interesting interpretation by the Rebbe Rashab, the 5th Chabad Rebbe, on the 4 questions, on the Mah Nishtana. And it goes as follows. Mah Nishtana Halayla Mikol Halaylos. Why is this night different than all the other nights? And the Rebbe Rashab says it doesn't just mean, like in the literal sense, why is the night of Pesach different than all the other nights of the year? But what it means in a deeper sense is nighttime is a time of darkness, a time of exile. So it would translate, what is different about this night? What is different about our exile that we find ourselves in right now? What is different about this exile from all the previous Jewish exiles? Because the Jewish people have suffered many, many times over. We have been in exile many times, and we have left exile many times. But none of those geulos were ever permanent. We always went back into exile. But this current exile, it says, when we leave it, when from this exile we go to Moshiach, that is going to be permanent. That's going to be forever. Once Moshiach comes, there's no going back. We are never going back to exile. So why is that? And the 4 questions basically follow up in that vein. So the first question is, Shebichol Haleilos einanu matbilin afilu pam echus Halayla Hazeh shtei pamim. The word matbilin is like the expression to use the mikvah, to purify yourself, to cleanse yourself, to clean yourself, to scour yourself. And based on that, the way it would read is the Jews in the previous exiles, although they went into exile, although they suffered, although they went into the washing machine, so to speak, they were not matbilin. They didn't really change out of that. They didn't clean themselves. They didn't rid themselves of the dirt. And because of that, they always had to go back into exile to try to get rid of the dirt. But we, through this exile, when we go to Mashiach, we will be totally matbilin. We will be matbilin twice over. We will be fully cleansed and fully rid ourselves of the evil forces within us. We will have washed away the stain. Both our body and our soul will be cleansed. And therefore, there will be no need to go back into Galus. So the question is, what is unique about this Galus that causes an absolute cleaning, causes an absolute double matbilin? The second question is, in the same thought, Shebichol Haleilos anu ochlin Chmetz Matzah Halayla Hazeh kulei Matzah. In the previous exiles, when the Jews emerged from those exiles, they emerged holding in their hands, so to speak, both Chmetz and Matzah. And what that means is, they were holding Matzah in their hands, which is representative of a good force, a holy force, a bittul force, a being which is good, which is holy, which is selfless, the nefesh elokis, the godly soul, but they were also holding on to their Chmetz. They hadn't rid themselves of their Chmetz, of the evil within themselves, of the force of ego, the being which is self-centered and selfish and self-serving, the nefesh Bahamas. They hadn't rid themselves of that evil. But we, through this galus, we will totally destroy and eradicate our Chmetz. We will totally destroy and eradicate our nefesh Bahamas. We will be left holding kulei matzah. we will be purely good. We will be purely holy people, only nefesh elokis people. So again, what is special about this galus? What is special about our exile this night, which causes this total eradication of evil, the eradication of Chmetz? Question number 3 is Shebichol Haleilos anu ochlin shiar yirokos Halayla Hazeh kulei mar. And the Rebbe Rashab says something very interesting. He says the word yirokos, which is usually translated as vegetable, has a second meaning. It could also mean the color green. And he says there is an association between the color green and the human trait of jealousy or envy. And I don't know where exactly that originated from, but it's common knowledge. It's world over. There's this association between green and jealousy. In English, we have multiple expressions about this connection. We say green with envy. And there's a word in the dictionary, green-eyed, for someone who's extremely jealous. So there's this association. And then, I don't know for sure, the Rebbe Rashab doesn't say it clearly, but he seems to allude to the fact that there's a Talmud in Saita which kind of alludes to this association between green and jealousy. It doesn't say it clearly there, but over there it says, it's discussing the Saita woman, and it says, the husband should makana es ishtay, which over there means he should warn his wife, and if his wife is found to be guilty, her face turns green. But the word makana, it actually, the more common meaning, and what it usually means, is to be jealous, or to feel jealousy. So how that would read is, if you feel jealous, if you feel jealousy in your heart, your face will turn green. The green complexion on the face comes from feeling jealous. So that would actually be the earliest allusion from the Talmud itself to this concept that there's an association between green and jealousy. But in any event, there is this association. So the Rebbe Rashab says, based on that, the way this question would read is as follows. It would read, all the other nights, after all the other exiles, when the Jews came out of those exiles, they had shiar yirokos. They had all kinds of green. They had all kinds of shades of green. They experienced and felt all kinds of jealousy. They felt within their heart all kinds of jealousies on the spectrum, starting with the worst, lowest forms of jealousy, which is where you're jealous of someone for having more money than you, you're jealous of someone for having something you don't have, which is a terrible, disgusting trait. And then they even had a holier kind of jealousy, a more productive kind of jealousy. And that is, the Talmud tells us, there's a kind of jealousy called kinas seifrim, which is actually considered positive. And what that means is that there's like a bunch of schools in an area, or a bunch of rabbis or teachers in an area, so that causes everyone, that competition and that jealousy causes everyone to do better, to up their game, to produce better content. Because in such an oversaturated area, in order to stand out, you need to produce better content. This is like we say, for a consumer, competition is the best thing in the world. So in certain settings, a certain healthy amount of competition and jealousy is actually better. It pushes everyone and challenges everyone to grow and to be better. So the previous Jews felt all kinds of levels of jealousy, all shades of jealousy. They had shiar yirokos. As opposed to us, we say, we only had one yerok. We only have, when we emerge from Galus, when we reach Moshiach, in the era of Moshiach, we will only have one yerok. We will only have one shade of green. We will have the most intense, powerful, positive form of green, the most intense, powerful, positive force of jealousy. Because the vegetable of the maror is the most intensive tasting vegetable there is. And so too, by saying that we're going to be left holding the kind of jealousy called maror, that means we're going to be left with the most intense and powerful and positive force of jealousy there is. And what that means is, the Talmud tells us that in the era of Mashiach, when Mashiach comes, so Hashem is going to build a special canopy, a special chuppah for every single Jew, for every single tzaddik. And it says, though, the design of your canopy, how splendid and beautiful it's going to be, depends on what you did throughout your life, on how much you accomplished. And people who accomplish more are going to have these beautiful, beautiful chuppahs, and people that accomplish less are going to have a little bit less beautiful. And it says in the Gemara that when you look at someone else's canopy, someone else's chuppah that's more beautiful than your own, you're going to be burnt up. And how the commentaries explain that is they say when something is burnt up, it ceases to be. It ceases to exist. And when you look at someone else's canopy, when you look at what someone else accomplished in their life, you're going to be like, wow, that's amazing. I want to be like that. That has so much value. You're going to see the value in that kind of lifestyle. And therefore, seeing someone else who did so much more than you is actually going to motivate you and challenge you and push you to grow and to do more. And it's going to make you aspire to more. And in that era, we're going to have such an intense, positive form of jealousy of wanting to aspire to higher, to imitate people in the positive, to try to grow like the people we see around us, that we are going to grow so much, so exponentially, that we're not going to grow a little bit, but it's going to be exponential growth. To the point that we're going to change so much, we're going to grow so much, that the new people we're going to grow into, the new people we're going to become, is going to be, we're going to have grown so much, we're going to have changed so much, what we were doing before, who we were before, is not going to look at all like who we are now, who we're going to change into, who we're going to develop and morph into. And that's what we mean, our previous being is going to become burnt up. It's going to cease to exist. That's how much we're going to grow. To the point that who we were before is no longer going to exist. So that's the powerful, intense, amazing force of jealousy, of moral jealousy that's going to exist, that we're going to have when Moshiach comes. So again, what is so powerful about this galus that it causes us to have this amazing kind of jealousy? And the fourth and final question is, Shebichol Haleilos anu ochlin, bein yoshvin ubein misubin, Halayla Hazeh kulanu misubin. And the Rebbe Rashab explains that eating is one of the things that humans use to indulge themselves. It's one of the greatest human pleasures. It's one of the greatest human tainugim. And we see there's two kinds of ways to eat. There's two kinds of ways of experience tainug. There's eating in a standing way, upright, or reclining, leaning over, which is representative of, he says, ispashtus de tainug and tainug ha'atzmi. And what that means in simple English is, take, for example, someone you really like. So when that person opens themselves up to you, when they allow you to experience them, and that could be in a million ways, that could be physically, emotionally, mentally, when they allow you to experience them, that is pleasurable if you like them. And the truth is, in every human interaction, we basically allow people to experience, or people experience us in every human interaction. But most human interactions are very superficial and not deep at all, very shallow. But we have quite a lot of interactions, quite a lot of people in our lives that we open up to quite deeply, quite intimately. But all these interactions, all these ways that we share ourselves and allow people to experience us, and we open up to different people, all of them is called ispashtus de tainug. Although those people are experiencing us and therefore enjoying us and basking in us, so to speak, and we can enjoy other people, we are not really experiencing those people themselves. We don't open ourselves entirely up to other people. We don't allow people to really experience us. We don't go all the way. We don't open up ourselves to other people the way we experience ourselves. We hold back a little bit. People don't see us as we truly are. And because of that, although they do experience us, some a little more shallow, some a little deeper, it's all ispashtus de tainug. It's not really experiencing you on your deepest level, who you really are, your essence, your etzim. They're experiencing and basking in the externalities of you. It's only a few very special relationships in our lives, very intimate relationships, and even in those intimate relationships, you have to consciously do this, where we do fully open ourselves up to someone. We fully allow someone to experience us and join us and feel us, either mentally, emotionally, or physically. And when you do that, whether that's with an intimate family member, or with a spouse, or with a real true friend in the real sense of the word, that person is experiencing you yourself. They are basking in your essence. That is tainug ha'atzmi. Now, we say the same thing exists by God. When God reveals himself to us, when he makes himself known to us, that's when we feel inspired. And it feels good to feel inspired, right? When you experience God, when you're inspired, when you know God, it feels very good. But most inspiration is us basking in and appreciating the externalities of Hashem, the externalities of God. And that's what we say the previous generations, they ate, their tainug was both bein yoshvin, bein misubin. Was both ispashtus de tainug and tainug ha'atzmi. Most of their experience of Hashem, most of their spirituality, most of their inspiration was just ispashtus de Hashem, ispashtus de tainug. They were experiencing Hashem, but they were experiencing and basking in the externalities of Hashem, and a little bit in the tainug ha'atzmi. Us, though, when we leave this galus, when we enter the time of Moshiach, then it's going to be constant tainug ha'atzmi. We are going to 24/7 experience Hashem himself. Hashem is going to reveal his very essence to us. It's going to be just us and him. Tainug ha'atzmi always. Those are the four questions. Now, the Rebbe once quoted this idea of the Rebbe Rashab, and he said the Rebbe Rashab basically just asked the question, but he doesn't give the answer. How could it be that what's unique about us Jews in this time, and we're not just spiritual Jews, how is it that we bring about the amazing era of Mashiach, the unique era of Mashiach? And the Rebbe said the question's even stronger to the Jews that are at this Farbrengen, because he was referencing a bunch of Jews had just escaped communist Russia. They had come from behind the Iron Curtain. And he says for these Jews, most of their family, most of their friends is still stuck in Russia. And the Jewish situation in Russia is so pitiful. The Jews there are so weak. They could do so little Judaism. They're in such a spiritual low. So these Jews had the question, how could it be that we are the ones who are going to bring about this amazing, amazing era of Moshiach? And he said, the answer lies in the follow-up paragraph. We say, in describing the redemption out of Egypt, which is the greatest redemption of all time, which actually empowers all future redemptions, we say about that time, Avadim hayinu l'pari b'Mitzrayim. We were slaves to Pari in Egypt. We were under Pari's control. Pari controlled us. He dominated us. We were under his thumb. And despite being in that low spiritual state, it says, in that time, God took us out of Egypt. God took us out with a strong hand. And basically, if it's all through our own efforts, it's true. We are low Jews. It doesn't make sense that we are the ones who could bring the amazing era of Mashiach. But that's if it would be our efforts. But the time when we left Egypt and the time now when we're going to leave this galus is not fully through our own efforts. Hashem is going to be the one to make the galus happen, make the geula happen. Hashem's the one who's going to bring Mashiach. And Hashem is much more powerful than us. Hashem could do a lot more than we can do. And Hashem has the power to bring an everlasting Mashiach that will last forever, a real, true geula shleima sa'amitis. So Mashiach now, and have a wonderful day.